Look, today, this last session of the day is a bit of an opportunity just to get a little bit technical and talk about BIM-Map Oz and some of the things that we mentioned yesterday in the presentation about some of the things we've been working on, I guess specifically around the model and validation checks that we've been using or we've been developing based on the BIM-Map Oz product data templates. So firstly, just to give you a bit of an understanding as to how that works, Brett Casson from Autodesk is going to come up and just give us all an update on the Autodesk interoperability tools, and you know, part of that I guess package is you know, the model and data checker. And then from there, what we've been doing is working with Christian at the Queensland University on developing the XML code check sets and starting to push this out as a service for clients and owners, and something we continue to develop after the forum and look forward to, you know, as per usual, you know, consulting and collaborating with the industry to help you know, get these out for people to use. So I guess I'll welcome Brett. You put your hands together for Brett, please. Thanks, mate.
Cheers. I echo Shannon's comments about standing between you and beer. So, but I think this is pretty important, and I just want to cover off on some of the narrative that's been happening, not only in the last 2 days, but over the past sort of 12 to 18 months in our industry. And I know that there is the shiny toy that is digital twin that we all love to chase. I promise that this presentation isn't about that. But if we look at the foundations and the fundamentals of what is a digital twin, if we peel that back, it's all about the data. And I think the big shift in our industry, which I'm going to talk about in a second, is that we're going to move away from having this forensic view of the world that we have to have the best BIM, and my BIM is better than yours, into the race for the data. And I think that's we're definitely at an inflection point in our industry where that's about to happen. I have to safe harbour this presentation because I am going to show some future technologies that may or may not make it to market. So the safe harbour statement essentially says that we are going to show future technologies. Please don't make any purchasing decisions on the back of what you see today. But we're pretty excited about the developments. We're very excited about working with the AMCA and Shannon and BIM-Map Oz. And we think that the work that we're doing is going to really assist the industry in having meaningful data and meaningful information throughout the life cycle of a project. Again, I just wanted to cover off on my perspective on what's happening here. I've been at Autodesk for 10 years this year, and one of my first roles at Autodesk was that I was brought in from industry to have an adult conversation with the public sector and with our major accounts around this thing called BIM. And I won't go into the pushback that happened in 2011 around this topic, but suffice to say that's not even a conversation anymore. But there was a huge emphasis on transitioning from 2D to 3D. But some of those challenges that I've highlighted down the bottom left-hand corner have not gone away. There is a huge overemphasis on file formats and what that means. And we all have a role to play. Autodesk definitely has a role to play in this as well. Structured data formats generally are not fit for purpose, and I heard the comment around someone trying to use Uniclass. I have another very large client that's using Kobe for infrastructure. Yeah, completely unfit for purpose and broadly meaningless when it comes to managing the asset at the end when it gets handed over to the client. Information, I would argue, still is broadly disconnected. I know that there's been huge moves into trying to change that, but I would argue that there still is a disconnect between information. We still are using paper. I know, again, there's been a conversation about moving away from that. There's various reasons why we still have to use paper. In particular, I'm from the infrastructure space, and so when we have compliant designs and compliant drawings, there still is a need for that paper-based and that paper sign-off. And this is my view on this, and you can coin it, you can do whatever you want with it. We've got to have the BIM before we have the twin, okay? Let's not go after the twin and throw away 10 to 15 years of enormous lift and a huge shift in our industry to go and chase what is the digital twin. So I think there's going to be a shift away from a focus on 3D modelling. I think there's going to be a huge focus now on structured information, asset information, meaningful data, the I and BIM, whatever you want to call it. I think that's going to be the shift. I work in a team that creates tools to help that. And the one observation that we have, and I work in a global team, and I go from everywhere from Orange to Copenhagen to London to the US, I go everywhere, is that there is a shift, and owners and clients want data models. That's a real shift in narrative. There's a move away from the tool you use to what you deliver, and that's a big change. And not only will they require it, they're asking for it now. Now, the good news is that everyone in this room is already primed to do this. You're already doing this. There are other sectors that are just trying to wrap their heads around this now. Kobe for infrastructure. So we develop a series of tools that I'm hoping everyone in this room has been exposed to. Myself and two others in my team, absolute rock stars, a guy called Eddie Kriegel and Chuck Mees. We develop a series of tools called the BIM interoperability tools. They're our tools. And we've been developing them for almost 10 years or over 10 years now. We've had enormous success with these tools. They're being used. I would argue that they're probably before their time, but I think they're being used more and more now. And the focus on these tools has always been three-pronged approach. Standardise the information, and I've highlighted some of the widgets that get included in Revit when you download the tools as an entitlement and you sort of have the ribbon. And we have the standardised data tool, which looks at applying classifications to your models, essentially. That's what it does. And it does that in an automated way. The second focus area for us, which I think is really important, and it's important not from a contractor side, but it's important from a client side as well, is this idea that we validate what we're doing. We validate what we're creating, we validate what we're handing over, the client validates that we've handed over something meaningful. And we have the model checker configurator, so we're able to configure those sorts of things that we want to validate, whether that's model performance or whether that is an asset information. The second piece around that is then we validate, but how do we check that? Who checks that? And so we've built in a thing called the model checker for Revit. We're looking at doing other model checkers for other applications as well. Watch this space. But essentially, this is the thing that gives you the answer. And then everyone wants to use it, and everyone is using it, but we've developed an automated way in which you can get those results and you can get those answers into Power BI, because everyone wants that. And we've even got on our website for free, remember all of these tools are for free, provided you have a license of Revit. We've given you a dashboard. We've built a dashboard that's already set up and ready for you to go. You just use it out of the box, and that's what it looks like. 2 years ago, the three of us sat down and said, that's great. You open Revit, you validate, you check, you close Revit. You open another model, you validate, you close, you check. Yeah. You're getting the drift here. It can be cumbersome, it can be tiresome, and it's something that someone needs to sit there and open Revit to do. The next generation of these tools that we started this journey about 2 years ago is going to be two things. One, it's going to be automated, and two, it's going to sit in the cloud. And we are developing a tool that will be called, hopefully, the Autodesk Validation Tool, which will sit on Autodesk Construction Cloud or BIM 360, either or both. And what it is essentially it's those BIM interoperability tools, the meaningful bits, they will sit on the cloud and they'll be connected to your BIM 360 environment and to your Autodesk Construction Cloud environment. The really big thing, and I know you think this is a shock coming from someone from Autodesk, is no one has to open Revit to do it. That work should have been done. If that information is sitting in your common data environment, that validation, that enumeration piece should have already been done. So this tool looks at scale, at not just one Revit model, but multiple Revit models, an entire tenancy, if you like, of Revit models. And it spits out the answer, whether it's a model quality answer or whether it's a data validation answer. The check sets are exactly the same. Christian's going to be so kind to walk you through the work that the BIM Oz team is doing on these check sets. And we're really proud of this tool because we think it's the next generation of model checking tools. This is what the UI will look like. We're hoping to look like. Again, this is just in beta at the moment. We're looking at ways in which we can bring this to market. And we've already had some successes. Denver International Airport has a very robust series of requirements for their consultants to deliver on. To do it manually, and they're using the BIM interoperability tools manually, it's taking about 25 hours to validate those 80 models. And they're about 63% accurate because there is a human element to this as well. By using the cloud-based tool, it's taking under an hour for all of those models, and they're getting a 93% accuracy rate. I'm cautious about showing this because I don't want this to turn into an academic dissertation on ISO 19650. But if you think about that ISO workflow that we're all having to sort of grapple with at the moment, this tool fits into a project information model workflow. It flows into a joint venture workflow where you've got multidisciplinary companies that are all working together, that are all having to validate and hand over and deliver. And then it flows then into the asset information model and all of those tools. And I think you saw Bob Ray yesterday talk about Tandem and whatever that delivery model is, ensuring that you have quality of information, quality of data, quality of model. That's really our focus. Now, you can learn more at interoperability.autodesk.com, and I'm going to be so kind to hand over to Christian, who's going to do a live demo on a Friday. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Brad and Shannon. My name is Christian Dorst. I'm from the University of Queensland. I'm the BIM guy there, but also work a lot with Shannon and BIM Boss and AMCA on the template. So before I talk more about that model checker and I'll give you the demo of that model checker, I want to spend a few minutes on the BIM Boss template and fabrication database. Regarding on some feedback that we got from the industry, I think there are 2 or 3 things that I want to point out in the template. Brett, you're absolutely right. We need to get a BIM right before we can go on with digital twins. So let's have a look how we place a duct fitting. Just go over here to Revit. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, thank you. Just last week, a new version of the template was released. There's some minor updates to it, some feedback that we got from the industry. So the default angle for duct transition families was changed to 30 degrees. The schedules were updated to the BIM Boss shared parameter file version 7. And then some minor issues that we had on pipe elbows with insulation, which is now fixed. I spoke about the template in the industry update in November. So I don't want to go through everything that's in there again. But there are just a few things that I think not really clear maybe out there in the industry or that some users have issues with. One thing is that I want to show you the duct fittings again. In that new template, we try to keep the number of fittings or families as low as possible. So we wanted to have very, very flexible families. So the eccentric transition, for example, in the old template, there was a concentric version and an eccentric version. So we just have one family now here, which can be both, which can be eccentric, which can be concentric. You just need to change here in the properties, you just need to change the offset for the width, for example. So at the moment, the offset is 400 because the duct width, one is 800, so half of that is 400. So that means that is sitting here in the middle. The duct width 2 is 500, so if we reduce the offset width to 250, that makes that one here, flat on right. and is now an eccentric one. Automatically, that label here comes up, so that label is also something that we can control. You go a bit further down in the properties, so you can turn that label on or off. And you can change the offset of that label. It's sitting here a little bit inside of that transition, so we maybe make it just 600, for example, and have it a bit further away. Yeah, so this is one thing that we can do there. Maybe just go back to a concentric version of it. Another question that we get a lot is, I cannot change the length of that transition piece. Again, yeah, have a look at the properties. So there is the duct length, which is now at the moment fixed to 800. So all our transition pieces have that standard value, 800, a standard length of 800. You have the duct length override. That's maybe a little bit confusing. Yeah? So when you put something up in here, so nothing changes. Yeah? So that the 800 is still locked. What you need to do then is go a bit further down here and check the box for length calculated. If you do that, that means that the default angle of 30 degrees is used to reduce from one duct width to the other one. So that means the length is automatically calculated accordingly to that 30 degrees. But when you have that box ticked for length calculated, you can go back up and change now the duct length override to maybe 1,000. And now you are able to really have a fitting that is 1,000 millimeters long. Yeah, another advantage of these flexible families is that I just draw a duct here to the left and to the right. That is now also much easier to use the justify tool. You don't need to change the family in between. Yeah, so you just use the justify tool, and maybe we want to use that alignment line here, and press OK. Yeah, and the same family can be used here in that situation. That warning message that we just got was just we have an open connection on the duct. That's all right. All right, yeah. So that's one thing. Yeah. So have a look at the properties. So there's a lot you can do with these families. Maybe another one is the elbow families or the pipe fitting families. Here, for example, the elbow flanged. So we have different types in here with different flange standards or different flange types that you can just change in here. So also no difference, or not 5 different families for every flange type. It's all just a type in one family. Also, these elbows are pretty flexible, so you can here change to the angle of 45, which is still a standard, which is available on the market somewhere. But you can also put in something a bit weird, like 63 degrees. We still allow that to do, but you get that warning telling you that this is now a custom fitting that was created, but it's still possible. Yeah? But in the properties down here, you now have here that is custom setting checked, so you can filter for these families or these custom families. We saw that it is just very good to have that flexibility. Yeah? So some designers, they just don't want to run into these warning messages all the time and routing not possible, and that stuff. We try to keep it flexible. Also, when you think of scan to BIM workflows, there's also something that's happening more and more. Yeah, that people model from a point cloud, and maybe have a 50-year-old building or plant room that was scanned, and maybe you just don't have the 45 or 90 degree elbow in there. You maybe need something a bit special. Okay. The last thing I want to show you here about the template is the schedules. Yeah, I already mentioned that we have updated the schedule to the shared parameter file version 7. Another thing that you should be aware of when you use that BIM-Boss template is that we filter the schedule according to generic families, or is it a manufacturer family? So for example, I have here two pumps. One is the generic BIM-Boss pump, and the other one is a manufacturer-specific ground force pump. So when I have a look here at the pump centrifugal design schedule, it's important to know that you only see the generic pump in there, not the ground force pump. How we do that is pretty simple. When you have a look at the filters that we use here, we just filter for the manufacturer. So everything that has manufacturer BIM-Boss goes into the design schedule. And then we use, in the second stage, then the VBIS code. So everything with the code PU in the VBIS code will go into a pump schedule. The manufacturer content will go into the procurement schedule. So this one is, I go a bit further to the right. Should see ground force somewhere. Here we go, manufacturer ground force AS. Yeah, to make these schedules work properly, you need, of course, have the right set of parameters in the background on the families. You cannot just download something from anywhere and place it in Revit and you have a proper schedule. So this is the power of BIM-Boss, yeah, why we need that standard, why we need these shared parameters. Because you just need to have the GUID, the right GUID on the parameter, so to make sure that the right information is going into the right schedule, into the right field. And now it becomes interesting what Brad already mentioned, the model checker, the validation tool. We can have the best standard in the world. If I don't check, if I don't validate, if I don't verify the models, it's completely useless. Yeah, I can ask for 1 million things, but if I don't check if that what I get back is according to my standard, it doesn't help me much to have that standard. So how does that look? Here, very small system. Little example here. I just have. Again, here used one of the BIM-Boss generic families, a fan. And now I want to check how good the quality of that model is. So up here we have the BIM interoperability tools. You can download them when you log into your Autodesk account. On the left side you have product updates, and then under the Revit 2023, 2022, you have the BIM interoperability tools plugin that you can download from there. It's completely free. So the first thing what we do when we want to use these check sets, so we have created BIM-Boss check sets that are soon available on the website, I would say. Yeah, soon. Okay. So the first step is that we go to the setup here, and we select a check set that we want to use. So before I go into the BIM-Boss check sets, what's interesting when you go here to open, you have here a public library, which is a very good starting point when you just start with the model checker, where you can get, or where you just can grab a lot of checks already predefined. So Denver Airport or whatever, universities in the US. Also model health dashboard that is already predefined. So worth looking at these definitely. What I want to do is, of course, have a look at the BIM-Boss model check. So we have just defined that XML file. Select that here, press OK. And now we have a list of checks that we have defined in there. So the first thing, or the first group, is that we have general checks. This is more like, maybe the model health, the project health check. So here we have file checks, so like just a Revit version. Read out the Revit version. How many warnings do I have in my project? Is there any CAD data linked in? Do I have raster images? How many line styles do we have? Are there any unused elements that could be purged? Project checks like project coordinates, also something that's always an issue in a lot of projects, getting the coordinates right. And then we have here the HVAC checks, just a list of duct system. So the possibilities are endless what you can check with the model checker here. Just a few examples, and we'll keep working on it definitely and create some more around that. The most important part down here is now we have a generic family here, so I want to check the design, or I want to perform the design check. So this is now according to the BIM-ABOS specification. So we have the design stage, the procurement stage, and the commissioning stage. So we expect a specific set of parameters on a family in the design stage. And these parameters are now sitting they're all being checked in that check set here. So for example, when you click here on BIM product classification, you see these are all the classification parameters that we expect there. So you can still say, okay, in my project, I don't care about OmniClass or whatever, and can untick these checks here, or untick the whole BIM product classification group if you like to. I have unticked here the asset management because we are maybe in a very early design stage. I don't have any asset information yet, so have unticked that one. I'm maybe more interested in the performance. When you have a look at the performance, but this is where it gets a bit more complicated or a bit complex. Because of course we expect different parameters on a pump than we expect on an air terminal. So we need to separate that here a little bit. So I have here a fan, so that means it makes no sense to check for any pump parameters or air terminal parameters. So I will untick these. And the rest is fine. And I just go here, save and close. And all I need to do is go run. Can check multiple models if I have more than one. I just run that one. So and there we go. And now we have here at the moment model quality, project quality of 77%, which gives me very quickly a good idea if the parameters I want, if the standard that I'm working to accordingly, if that is, somebody paid attention to that, if that is recognized or not. So and I go a bit further down, I see where the issues are, where the numbers are a bit lower. So here we have in the identity section, we have no ID or no system information here. This is very project specific, I would say. So this is the reason why these checks are failing. But 77%, that's maybe all right. That's not too bad. And I could do that, I can download that. Good, then maybe another example here with the procurement schedule. We just go in here into the BIM interoperability tools again. Go here into the check set, that's the right one. So now I want to check for procurement, same thing. Have here some information, some checks for pump parameters, for identity parameters. This time the fan makes no sense to check for that one. Exactly the same thing. Run it and have a look. This one is at 70%, and now I see again here where the issues are. This is of course not pretty simple because we just have one family in there, so it's not that hard to fix these issues. Of course, in a big project, another thing what we can do, we haven't done that yet in that version of the check set, but you can also export an Excel list of the families that failed or the families that are that have not failed, which is then helpful, of course, at one point. Okay, so maybe another thing, maybe a bit more technical background, how that is all set up, or if you want to set up your own check sets, how that works. But it all's happening here in the configurator. So I launch that one. I open that check set again, that XML file again. Click here, OK. And maybe we go here directly to the check set structure. But this is what you already know, what you have seen before, how that is all grouped. And now I can go into one of these single checks. And up here, I can edit this check or can, of course, create a completely new one. But how that all works is, we're just going into the Revit database and look for properties, specific properties of an element. So in that case, we check, so maybe the first 10 are, check everything that, we filled out all the MEP families, everything that could be MEP related. And then check, is that parameter classification, is that existing and has that parameter a value? And if that's not happening, if that's not, or if one of these checks is not true, then what's happening here, the check result will then be a failed result. There are other options, as I already mentioned, you can count and list matching elements, or not matching elements, or you can fail a test when a matching element are found. Another thing what we have done, just go in that configurator again, just to give you a bit more background. We also have defined GUID check sets based on GUID. So far, what I've showed you so far is just looking for the parameter name. But I already mentioned it before when we spoke about the schedules, that of course in the background that GUID needs to be right. So I just show you the GUID check as well. When we have a look in here in these GUID checks, and we just look for one of the identity parameters. So we have that field down here, API parameter. And if you use API parameter, you can basically look for anything in the background in the Revit database. So in that case, GUID value. What I highly recommend when you want to do things like that, that you, maybe some of you already know it, but I highly recommend the Revit lookup tool. So if you're not sure what you're looking for, go into that Revit lookup tool. You can go a bit further down. So at the moment, we check for shared parameters. So I'm looking into the shared parameter elements, just select one of the parameters. And now here on the right, we have much more properties in the background in the Revit database than we can see in the Revit properties palette. And then we go a bit further down, so we see we have here the GUID value. So this is the string that I would put in, and this is the value that I'm looking for in the check set. But again, it would work with everything else that you see here in that list. Everything in the Revit database you can check with that setting API parameter. All right, so now this is pretty cool for Revit users. So for internal checks, so before you send that model out to somebody, you can run your model check on that one. But now I put on now my University of Queensland hat. So now you now have maybe some colleagues who have no idea about Revit and don't want to know anything about Revit, don't want to use any of these BIM and CAD tools. And now it becomes very, very handy that we have now that model checker or validation tool on Forge. Because with Forge I can do, or with that model checker on Forge, I can do now exactly the same, just here on the cloud based on a BIM 360 or this construction cloud model. I'll just show you how that works. I create a task here, give the task a name, in our case maybe, oops. Construction Innovation Forum 2022. The Revit version that my files are in are 2022. So now I'm here connected to my docs module of the Construction Cloud, and here I have two files in there, with exactly the same files that I had before in Revit. So the procurement check sets, for example, and I can just drag and drop these models over, or I can drag and drop a whole directory, a whole folder over, and have that checked. And then down here in the next step, again we have the public library, where I can just use one of these predefined libraries, or I go to my library, and I already uploaded here my BIM model checker. Want to use that one. Now here I can set a trigger. I can run that whole thing once now, once later, a specific time. Can have that recurring, or every time a model is published. So at the moment, we want to see the result right now, so I go once now. Can also spit out an Excel sheet of all that stuff, an HTML file. Can automatically send me an email, reminder. Yeah, just go save and close. Will not take very long. So the next run here is now 220, what should be right now. When I refresh up here, so I see that the test is now already running. Yeah, when once it's finished, it should not take very long. But I have also I did that already yesterday, so I can just open that one. And then can view the results here straight away on Forge. This model here had a quality of 64%. And again, I can expand these group, procurement, parameter checks, and see where the issues are. And yeah, I can now give access to that model checker to anybody in my team, to my records officer, to the project managers, to the engineers. And they can check the quality of that model. I can also put it or bring it on a dashboard, Power BI dashboard, to visualize it. And yeah, for us as a University of Queensland, that's a very, very quick way to check the model quality. We manage approximately 600 buildings. I would say we have 100 to 200 projects all the time on campus. Smaller projects, multi-million-dollar projects, so there's no way that we open every single file and check the parameter names in each family or the GUID values. And this is a very, very good tool, and I'm very happy that we have that tool. And yeah, and hopefully very soon, I'm just working on some University of Queensland check sets, and hopefully we will very soon see them on the public library, so that all our contractors, all our designers can also use that tool and just make sure that the basic BIM requirements of the university are fulfilled. All right, yeah, that's it from my side.
See if this is working. Yep, thanks guys. Are there any questions? I mean, I think maybe just a comment first. Hopefully there's been so much conversation the last 2 days about consistency, standardised data sets, all that sort of thing. AMCA Australia, BIM Oz, as you know, have been working on it for some time, and certainly, you know, it's a core element of what we do and will continue to do. And, you know, hopefully with that you can start to see how the pieces are starting to come together from a design and construct phase, but also, you know, as clients. So we sort of said yesterday that, you know, these check sets are, you know, aimed at owners and client and perhaps head contractors, using this, being able to validate the models and the data sets. So again, then having project teams work to that consistency, knowing that there's you know, that alignment with that validation tool, and also then, you know, I guess Christian pointing out that important factor at the end of the line where as a client, as an owner of 600 buildings, the workload that comes with inconsistency. So maybe with that, are there any questions just on those things? Dom?
Thanks, Doug. That'd be loud enough. I think that everyone hears me. I think it's great, and it's great to... Okay, I use the microphone. Yeah, but I think we want Sumit to lose his hearing and his speaking. Maybe that would be a good thing then to shout. Now, this looks great, and you did mention clients and so forth. In how far can the tool be used by teams in the construction cloud, for instance, and even for models that are not Revit native models? Because especially when you talk to clients, they may not have any of the Autodesk sort of authoring tools. You might talk to teams who just have multiple tools that they're using on the contracting side. So I think it would be great if it would extend into that. And in how far does it do that, or is there provision for that to happen at some point? Yeah. So at the moment, it's all what's in the Revit database, everything what's sitting on Revit, can be checked.
Yeah, it's exactly what Christian said. I don't know if Brett, you want to jump?
Yeah. I'll chime in quickly.
I think.
Yeah, good. In the first instance, we wanted to be supportive of Revit because of the already very large user base for the BIM interoperability tools. We are looking at other file formats. The obvious one is IFC, being the team that manages Building Smart globally, which is my team. We're obviously thinking about IFC. At the moment, we want to do the path of least resistance and go to Revit because it's already there. We can have it in the construction cloud in BIM 360, but we are definitely, our thought process is around how we support other file formats, most definitely, because then you've kind of closed the loop, haven't you?
I think we've got a question online, so if anybody else in the audience is keen, let us know. Okay. Great work on the schedules. We are curious how you feel the best way of delivering these schedules for approval to a client, i.e. on a large format sheet via the model. I guess hopefully I can answer that question properly, but or if I understand the question correctly. But for BIM Oz itself, I mentioned yesterday we bring industry work groups together, define data sets for particular products, and then from there, they are available in what we call a product data template, which is just an Excel file, but it's not just an Excel file. It's got it's really data rich. With all the parameters, units of measure, and a bunch of fields in there. So they're the things that I mentioned yesterday around providing an opportunity for engineers and clients being able to understand and review asset information requirements based off those BIM Oz product data templates, early in the piece, potentially long before the modelling begins. And then I think from there, what we've done, or not I think, but what we've done from there is those parameters that are defined through the industry as being important to them, from consultants to contractors to manufacturers, and also facility managers, have then been pushed into the families and in the BIM Oz shared parameter file, and then the families that Christian showed an example of, and then in the schedule. So all of that alignment is connected. And then that sort of then also then allows obviously the consistency and alignment with the check sets that we've just shown. So the big thing for us is just to continue that consistency and alignment. We've mentioned that word a million times, but it's what we're all about. So yeah, hopefully that answered the question. But if there's any more in the audience, keen to keep going.
Could I just make a very quick comment as well, Shannon? This is very much about consistency of data, but this is also about quality of data. As an industry, there is a forensic view now on the types of information that are being handed over from consultant or architect to contractor to the client. People talk. People that work on projects are starting to have a very dim view of poor quality information that's being handed over. The role of this tool really is to drive that quality of information throughout the design and delivery phase, and ultimately handing over a meaningful digital asset to a client, whether that be a public sector or government client, or a private sector client or a building owner. So our intention here is We want to drive quality of information, and then that will drive things like digital twins and IoT and those sorts of things. But without this, foundationally, we don't think we're going to get there. So that's our intention with these tools.
All right, I think we're pretty good.